Hi friends, how are you doing today? My name's Emma and I'm so glad that we can take a few minutes to connect together today. Welcome to KCC's Thought for the Day. Have you ever got completely lost in the countryside? You know, the kind of thing when the sat-nav or the map says turn left and you realise you aren't where you think you are because you look left and there's nowhere to turn. What happens in life when we feel lost? How do we find our way when we don't recognise our surroundings and we feel like the sat-nav we're following has lost connection? Psalm 23 is a psalm that brings comfort and hope, so much hope. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul, and he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Our souls are restored through Jesus. They are transformed and our future is secured when we give our lives to him. But we're also on a journey of growing in God, and we don't always get it right. Sometimes we take a wrong turn. We can be like a sheep that takes a precarious path, the path that twists and turns, leading the shepherd to have to take action to guide us back to the right path, the path that he knows will lead us to the place we need to go, the path that will lead us to strength and to hope, the path that will ultimately lead us home. There was this time where my family and I were driving to my parents' new home. They'd moved to this lovely village and we were driving there for the first time. We had our trusty sat-nav. Well, at the time we thought it was trustworthy anyway. The village was surrounded by beautiful fields, open and flat, growing all kinds of crops. It felt like they stretched to the horizon. It was a kind of classic picture postcard kind of view. Squares of vibrant yellow. There were freshly ploughed lines of soil which were rich and ready for their crops. And there were green meadows which had livestock just roaming around, even beautiful streams with sheep by the side of them. It was so lovely. With that scenery, it felt like it should have been a dream of a journey, but all too soon we realised that we were just driving round in circles. The flatness of the countryside meant that we could see the spire of the church in the nearby village that we needed to get to. We just couldn't find the way to the village. We went round and round in circles. We were driving parallel to where we needed to be, but we just couldn't find the exit, the road to go down. There came a point where we just had to admit defeat and we needed to ask for help. So we rang my dad. And before he could help us, we kind of had to find out where we were. So he listened as we described our surroundings. There were no road signs. We hadn't got a clue by now what road we were actually on. And so we just had to look around us and tell him what we could see. So we described the colours, we described the planting, and amazingly, Dad knew exactly where we were. He knew where we were because he knew the landscape. He was familiar with it. He knew what was growing in what fields. He'd learnt the area. He was able to direct us to a landmark to look for. And to this day, it's still the landmark that we look for every time we visit them. Dad was able to guide us to the turning. And we had to trust my dad that he knew where we were. The reality was that we really didn't know where we were. We didn't have the full picture. We had to trust that the directions Dad gave us would lead us to the right place. We were in unfamiliar territory, and I suppose we could have kept trying. Maybe we would have got there in the end, but because we chose not to keep going in our own understanding, we got there, we got help more quickly, and it stopped things getting a lot worse. In this season, there's unfamiliar territory for everybody. The landscape feels like it just keeps changing before our eyes. Proverbs 3 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." When you trust God, you can look to him in the middle of unfamiliar territory. When we feel like we're lost, like we're losing ourselves in the waves of this season, you can hold on to the truth. The life-giving truth is that when we give our lives to God, we are never lost. He always knows where we are, and he is always with us. There's this song by Upper Room that I've been listening to recently, and in the bridge it says, "When I thought I'd lost me, you knew where I'd left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart." This is the beautiful, tender heart of the shepherd towards his sheep. He demonstrates his love towards us. We wander away sometimes, and as he welcomes us back, he reintroduces us to his love. The love that we were never far away from, but that we may be lost sight of in the struggle. It's the love we feel in the peace that comes when we put our worries down at his feet. Or the love that delights our hearts when we hear an answer to prayer. He says, "See how much I know you. See how much I love you." It's all in the detail of how he answers. He knows exactly how things are, and he shows us how he sees us. He picks up all of the pieces, he restores our souls, and he guides us to the paths that show us who he is. The paths that grow trust and faith, the paths that ultimately lead us to praise him. In the times when you don't know where you're going, walk with him on the path that he is leading you on. He knows where you are, and he knows where you're going. He will lead you home if you put your trust in him, for he is a faithful God. He is the faithful one, and all you need to do is follow him.